Hey, welcome to another episode of the Fit Growth Machine podcast. I'm Brian Roisentul, your host, and today I'm going to interview Chad Price. He's a serial entrepreneur with over 10 years of experience in multiple industries. He's an athlete and he is a hemp and cannabis advocate. Before talking to him, let me tell you that this episode is brought to you by BSR Digital. I mean, we get it. Customer acquisition costs are going up. There's lack of tracking. Attribution is driving you nuts, and audience sizes are getting smaller and smaller after the iOS 14 update. If that wasn't enough, there are other factors such as the recession and supply chain issues making it harder than ever to grow your e-commerce brand. That's why we need to understand that it's really important to level up the marketing and design a solid strategy as what used to work doesn't anymore. Here at BSR Digital, we have been helping countless e-commerce brands that wanted to scale their business to the next level through paid ads and email marketing for over a decade. So if you want to learn more about us, you can visit us at bsrdigital.com, and you can also email us at hello@bsrdigital.com. Now, as promised, I have a chat here with me. Hey, man, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So I know you have a pretty interesting story, so I would love for you to share with the audience.
No, thank you. I mean, where would you like me to start? I think, when you start entrepreneurship, I don't know where your journey of entrepreneurship actually starts or actually finishes, but I think it's more of a nature that you have in you. So where would you think is the best place for me to start?
I think since you were born, I'm just kidding. I mean, there's something in what you said that it's very true, and I have never thought about that. I don't know if any of us entrepreneurs know when our journey really begins because it happens over time, right?
Yeah, I think if I was trying to say where I think my journey began, it's where I really took a first step or that first leap, 2 feet over the fence into entrepreneurship, and that would be after kind of working in corporate America. So, um, after my background in sports, so after growing up playing sports, I played sports in college, and I was on scholarship there. After graduating, I went into corporate America trying to kind of get a feel for what it's like to be in corporate America, really see what the value of my education, the value of my degree would be worth, different things like that, just to try to kind of quantify what my experiences have earned me thus far. And once you get into that space and you're into a corporate environment, I think you learn a lot more, especially if you kind of have that entrepreneurial hunger inside. You learn about more about what you're sacrificing, and it really forced me at least to not feel like I was leaving anything behind. I knew what corporate America was. I knew I could go back to corporate America at any point if I really wanted to, and I can be successful there if that's what I choose to set my mind to. But as far as the action I like to take and what kind of fits more my personality style, it's more of small teams, entrepreneurial teams that are trying to achieve hard objectives and trying to get them done in a timely manner. So um, once I really made that decision to jump from corporate America, it was all back. It was all behind me from that point. I was really in to figure out what it took for me to be an entrepreneur versus I have this genius idea uh, that's going to kind of lead the way. I really didn't even know what I was going to do when I first decided to make that step.
How old were you when you left the company?
Um, I started this. So I started, I guess, working in my last job, which was Trans Canada Oil and Gas, in 2012, I believe. No, not 2012, 2008. And then in 2012 is when I actually kind of decided I was going to move into entrepreneurship and start a company. So I got two friends together, and that I was about 28 years old, 27, 28 years old. I got two friends together that we've been talking about committing to starting a company in the past, or we flirting with the ideas, and it was time to kind of put up or shut up. So we all kind of put our savings together. I think at the time it was like 10,000 each that we were able to scrounge up, and we didn't even know what type of company we were going to start. We just knew that we were going to start something, and we started kind of going through our own internal choosing process of what types of companies were of most interest to us to fit our skill sets. And the first one we landed on was kettlebells.
Okay. So that's when you built or when you started Kettlebell Kings, right?
Correct. Yeah. So that's how kind of Kettlebell Kings got started. You know, at the time I was finishing, still kind of trying to transition from, let's say, a competitive workout routine, you know, training for competition and training for kind of maximum explosiveness and maximum durability for like football versus training for functional fitness and longevity and kind of overall health and wellness. And at the time, I really noticed that there was no real big player in the kettlebell space that had a cool factor, that had a brand, that had any type of street credit, as well as there was nobody kind of aggregating information around the kettlebell and around that industry into one place that people could learn and grow from. So we really wanted to start a brand that would use the kettlebell as a centerpiece for health and wellness, and you know, you can kind of build around there. So we aggregate a lot of content. We try to see ourselves as like the sports center of the kettlebell world, as well as provide the highest quality equipment possible. So, you know, it's kind of a two-layered approach of building a community of people that really are interested in just the kettlebell and that niche in space in itself. And then also building a company around that provides the equipment and provides additionally the content and information on how to use it and how to better yourself.
I think there's a very important message for everyone listening who owns an e-commerce brand, or even if you know, you guys listening are marketing directors, head of commerce. There's a message here for you to, you know, to process, because I'm doing it myself as well. We always talk about the importance of the offer, right? Well, for every brand, you know, having the right offer for your audience. But then many companies translate offer into the product or a discount. And here, what you are mentioning is that the product was, I don't know if it was a commodity, but it was the least important, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was the least important thing in the equation because it was something that existed. But everything around the products, the community, the experience, everything, that the content, I wanted to dive deeper into that in a sec. That was the real thing, right? That was what made you create a business out of this, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a concept a lot of people don't grasp or overlook. You know, they think it's, well, you know, I will put a logo on a commodity and then I'll pay for Facebook ads and I'll get sales. And unfortunately, that, you know, that's not how the business world works anymore. And there's a lot more to the offer, like you say, in building some type of additional benefit, additional value to people's lives. And so when we first started, obviously, you know, this is 10 years ago, Facebook ads were cheap and awesome, and they definitely help us drive some traffic, but it was still a lot longer. Yeah, exactly. It was the good old days. But it was still a lot longer funnel because kettlebells were just a commodity and most people didn't really understand. So the brand really became building out that content funnel, building out a network of influencers that wanted to work with us and create content. And all of that is kind of a system, if you will, that feeds itself, where people can come, be a part of this system, and view different pieces of content that are valuable to them. And we just keep tailoring that the more the system kind of feeds itself. So the more people come into the system, the more we get stats and feedback on what types of thing gets engagement. And then we recycle kind of those ideas into better and better ideas over and over until it just gets until it gets to the point where it's kind of self-sustainable. And at this point, and I think that's what makes it such a valuable acquisition. At this point, it's gotten to the point where we're not even in control of it. We foster it, we feed it, but it would keep growing on its own even if we let it go.
Okay. So I have a lot of questions, right? I will try to keep it together, but I have a few questions for you. But I see a parallelism in with other interview we did in the first season. We interviewed Echelon's fitness founder, Lou Lentin. They, for those who don't know who he is or don't know about the company, Echelon Fitness was born, if I'm not mistaken, as a bike manufacturer right? So they manufacture bikes and they sold them online until they found that there was something else for them to do about it. And long story short, they started creating content and value and memberships. And now they sell bikes. That's fine. But they create more content than Netflix. They partner up
Yeah.
with Pitbull, Lady Gaga, and many other celebrities to create content. They have I don't know how many studios around the world to create content, and the bikes are just a product right there. They're important, I'm sure, but they created many other things. And these what I wanted to say is that allows you trying to bring that to today's issues. Like, I mean, D2C brands are struggling with a lot of things, especially what you said about the Google days. Uh, it was cheaper. It was, I don't know if easier, but it was different, right? To be fair, but probably with a good store and a decent ad campaigns, you could succeed, let's say. Now it's not that way. Acquisition costs are super high, as we said in the intro. And this, what you have done with this company, allows you to do many things. And I would love you to tell me, but a few of them is, you know, retention, to increase the retention because people are engaged because you built a community, you create content. And then one of the most important things that many brands nowadays don't get is to sell something on the back end, not only on the front end.
Yeah.
Right? So you didn't only sell the kettlebells, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think we realized that we wanted to kind of really bring value to people besides just like you would refer to the commodity itself. So there's only so many things we can do to improve a kettlebell and to make this into a pristine product. There's only so many things we can do to differentiate ourselves from our competitors. But the one thing we can do is build a content machine that provides high quality content for people who are not only purchasing from us, but people who are potentially purchasing from us. So, we don't look at a customer as someone who needs to come in and purchase from us on day one. It's totally fine if it takes you 9 months to purchase from us. If it takes you a year and a half to purchase from us, as long as you get into the network and you get into our content generation machine, we have multiple different points in that process in which you can purchase things. One of them being the kettlebell, and that is kind of going to be the foundation of it. But there's also, like you referred to, additional things that you can purchase from workout videos, certifications. You can purchase training programs. We have, an affiliate network set up with other trainers where we're offering some of their programs. So it's more of we're co-signing a credible source of information that you can come online and trust. And then once that trust is established, the product is almost, it's easy to sell. It's like, which one of our products do you want to buy? Because at this point, we've gained your trust.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I don't know if you know who Alex Hormozi is. He's everywhere right now. He has published a book called $100 million offers. And one of the things he says, and he's not the first person to talk about this, but he explains that very well in the book, is that whenever you create an offer, for it to be successful, it's better that you think about what your customers will need before and after buying your thing, right? So in this case, they have the kettlebell, but then they will need some, encouragement, guidance, training, whatever, right? So that's where you can, be present for them. And then, if I'm not mistaken, you start selling apparel as well, right?
Correct. I mean, I think that's one of the things that I kind of try to pride myself in is always trying to have some type of lifestyle brand associated with whatever brand you're doing. So I think it's important, and I think you get a lot of equity out of your employees and your customers actually wanting to wear your apparel and wanting to represent your logo as a positive influence in your space or just in their lives. We always tell this story. We remember the first time we saw someone in our t-shirt just randomly, and that's meaningful. So it's not only is it free advertising, but it's a representative of someone is so proud of this particular brand that they're willing to proclaim that in front of their friends, family, coworkers, different things like that. So we always try to provide some type of gear that we associate with the brand that you can feel proud to wear, and kind of proclaim your commitment to health and wellness, or fitness, kettlebells in this case.
Yeah, it must feel really good to see something like that out there, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's almost surreal. It's a couple of different stories we had. One was we actually had some guys here locally, because we're based in Austin. So we had some guys who would, every week they would go out and they would wear their Kettlebell King shirts. And so that was like a really big deal for us, because, they had turned it into their own little personal, like, we're the Kettlebell guys. No one, it was, when we were kind of an up and coming brand, not many people knew about us at the time, but these guys had turned into their own personal tradition. And that's the kind of stuff that we were looking to create when we were trying to create content and trying to really bring the community together.
Okay, and then we can quickly talk about, if you want, about your journey. As you grew the company, what were like the key challenges you saw as you grew, the key roles you needed to hire, those roles that you probably didn't have back then, but you probably could do things differently now, right?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's, the list is extremely long. What we would do differently, I think we did a lot of things right. Um, the the biggest thing, I think, especially if you're going into an industry where you have to purchase inventory, I think finding, once you know that you have something, once you know you have a brand, you have to find some type of inventory financing, so that it doesn't, take away from your cash flow and your creativity, and kind of limit you in other places on what you're able to do. So I think it took us a while to try to get that really locked in. And even now we're still kind of struggling with just keeping up with the amount of inventory needed. If your margins are only 30%, you can't buy twice as much inventory next year. You're always going to have to deal with that problem, whether it's the sooner you deal with it, I think the better. That would be one of them. And then the other would just be, on the journey, I was fortunate enough to start this with, two people that I knew already. One I played football with in college, and, we had kind of already been through some battles together, and, seeing each other at our worst and best. And I think that goes a long way in business. There's a lot of overlap in the challenges we had to face. And then my other partner was friends of another guy I played football with. So having three people in that close network, it really allowed us to push through, which, I think a lot of people would have collapsed. So the first, let's say, 5 years were pretty tough, because, there's not a lot of money to go around. There's definitely not enough money to live on and grow the company. So really making sure you have that kind of in the presence, in the forefront of your mind, and you have some type of plan for that. My personal plan was to start another business so that I could have some type of cash flow. So, I had a nail salon at the same time when I was starting this, because, I read when I was jumping the fence into entrepreneurship that, the service business was cash flow positive pretty quick, and, nail salons were pretty quick. And so knowing nothing about it, my girlfriend and I just started up the business, and luckily for me, it all worked out to kind of sustain me enough to get this brand kind of off the ground.
We do everything in our power to survive as entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah, for sure. Whatever it takes. And I think that's the mindset that you really have to kind of get into, is at the end of the day, it's not going to happen unless you make it happen. When you're an employee, you go to work, you expect to get paid. When you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't necessarily work like that. You only get paid when you design a system that pays you. And I think that's the way it should be. I think, that's how we progress as human, and as culture, and as business. So I kind of like that competitive nature. It reminds me of sports, and the kind of the cutthroatness of either you win or you lose.
If we fast forward to last year, you guys were acquired, right?
Correct. Yeah. So last year we were officially acquired. We're still working. We're still working with it right now. So it was an acquisition, a 3-year acquisitional period. So we're still kind of managing the company on a day-to-day basis, and trying to transition it to, let's say, a corporate team that can hopefully expand it to global success like we always dreamed of.
What advice could you give to someone listening or watching that is looking to be acquired, let's say?
I think, a lot of times people don't necessarily realize how much revenue you have to really make to get acquired. So, even where we were, I think you at least need to be in the $5 to $10 million in revenue if you're really talking about kind of getting some type of serious money in an acquisition. Um, Obviously, the better your margins are, the better. And having your books in order, I think, one of the things we had the luxury of is because we were all friends, we didn't necessarily have to have everything lined up perfectly to understand things. It was a lot of trust associated with it, but keeping your clean books is always going to help, especially if you're planning on being acquired. If not, it's going to take you 6 to 8 months of reconciliation to get to get a clean snapshot, and that's never a fun exercise either.
Okay, great. So you're currently working on that company in this acquisition period, but you have started this new business called Life Grows Green, right?
Correct. Yeah, and Life Grows Green is another kind of lifestyle brand that I started. It right now we kind of the main product we have currently are hemp-based products, but we really want to sell anything that's natural, anything that's the least processed, most natural products that we can provide for people's health and wellness. Um, One of the things with the hemp plant itself, and the reason I think we like to start there is just the stigma around the hemp plant, the cannabis plant, and how all of those laws and all of those kind of stigmas are kind of falling right now. I think it's a good opportunity to really build a positive brand that provides high quality products. You can find all of our lab results, certificates of analysis on every single product that we offer. Really try to be the most transparent, clean, green brand that's out there. Is kind of the goal.
That's great. So if you don't mind me asking, of course, what are you guys doing with regards to the customer acquisition and retention for that brand?
Yeah, I mean it's extremely difficult. It's not going to be the same as fitness. There's still federal regulations around it, even though it is quote unquote federally legal now. But there's not really federally legal avenues to advertise. So you're still having to work with companies who kind of do, let's say, gray area type of advertising approaches to try to get advertisements out there. But it's not something that's very predictable or scalable at this point. Google did just recently announce this month that they're changing their CBD advertising laws, but I haven't seen that in practice. So, we are gearing up for that, and we're super excited about, the opportunity to actually see what that looks like on in application. But as of now, I'm still skeptical that, that it won't be something that's scalable or something that's predictable enough to really throw a marketing campaign behind. So a lot of the things we do right now is very underground, very similar to kind of what my niche is, and it's trying to build great content, trying to understand what that community is really looking for and what types of content really reverberates with them, and working with people who are already kind of in the space and really building out a network that wants to provide and continually grow the kind of overall awareness around that.
It's crazy. This is still happening in 2023, right? I mean, all the regulations around
it's
it.
outrageous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would love to know more about the following, and I'm sure the audience wants that too. Is that, I mean, this is your, let's say, second business. I don't know if it's actually second or not, if we count the nail salon or anything else that you have done, but
It would probably be like number five. Like, yeah, it'd probably
okay.
be like number five. But yeah, I
Business.
would say for official businesses, yeah, I would say
Okay.
this is my next baby. So yeah.
Your next baby. So, I have twins, 3-year-old twins. So I didn't have the chance yet, and I don't know if I want a third one, but to have the second, like the second baby. But
Yeah.
recently some friends and neighbors um had their second baby, and they always say, the second is easier. The second, we are not as, you know, anxious or frustrated. It's a different thing, not easier, but it's different. So does this happen with business as well, in terms of, I don't know, the skills you get as you grow as a person and professional, the way you start building teams, the way you are as a leader? Can you walk me through your journey briefly? Because I think that it could be really useful for everyone listening, saying, okay, I got a good product, I'm creating community or content, but I don't know what my next hire should be. I don't know how to properly lead a team. I don't know if I should use any system. I don't know, this EOS or anything else. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where, when back to where we talked about kind of where does your entrepreneurial journey start. When I was in corporate America, when I was playing sports, I was always a student of my environment. I was always team captain, point guard. I was always the person that was looking for a leadership role, even when I was 12 years old. So I think that's kind of always been my mindset, is I want to understand the system. I want to be privy to what the strategy is, why we're doing what we're doing, how we're going to overcome potential obstacles and things like that. So growing up and all of the experiences, job experiences I had, it really taught me all these different kind of lessons. So, I've had to kind of play the role of every position that I'm expecting from someone else. And that kind of gives me the confidence to know what type of team I need to achieve what task. I was in construction, for example, and some construction teams would go out and they would pick up 20 guys from some random location, and they're just day workers. And I'm more of a give me 5 guys that know what they're doing, and we'll outperform those 20 guys every time. So I think it's just knowing who you are and having your own personal strategy. For me, I'm always trying to find a competent team and use my personal equity that I've built with those people in the past, as well as give them some type of incentive or some type of investment long term in what I'm working on. So with my business partners, I think they know, like, I'm willing to do 100% of it by myself, but I'll give you the same percentage of me if you come on board. And I think that's more of always just been my mindset and kind of how I am as a person.
That's awesome. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I just wanted to ask you before we leave if there's anything I didn't ask you that you think that could benefit the audience.
No, I think your questions were great. I think if I was trying to just benefit the audience or think about what would be most helpful, I think it's really having the self-awareness and kind of the emotional intelligence to tackle entrepreneurship. I don't think it's something that's just for everyone in every situation. Like, there is risk associated with it. If you have a family, you do need to take that in consideration. It's a higher level of stress than just being able to kind of get off work, let's say. I'm really never off work, and I like that, but for everybody, that's not a mind state that some people can live in. So really having that self-awareness and making sure you're emotionally ready for that task before you jump into it, I think is a big deal to not prevent your downfall in those early years.
Awesome. So for everyone listening or watching, as always, you can go to fitgrowthmachine.com and find all the resources mentioned here, including all the social channels that Chad is present on. But please, in case I forget about any, where can people go to learn more about you and your companies?
Sure. You can find out more about my latest company, Life Grows Green, lifegrowsgreen.com, same on social. If you're looking for me personally, chadprice.com, same on social, real Chad Price. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, all your major kind of social channels. And then if you're looking for sports and fitness, health and wellness things, Kettlebell Kings, kettlebellkings.com. Follow us on our social channels, YouTube, different things like that.
Okay, a lot of ways to find Chad, and everything again will be in the show notes at fitgrowthmachine.com. So you make sure you go there and you find the spot where all the links are for you to go and connect with Chad. Chad, I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it as well.